All right, hey guys. We are going to finish up the lesson that we did today. Obviously, I am out again. You'll need your math book and you'll probably want a calculator, but we're going to quickly kind of finish up what we did yesterday, and then you're going to have some time to practice. So our learning goal for today is that I can write linear functions from a graph, a table, and a verbal description by finding the rate of change and initial value. So again, we started this yesterday. We're just going to kind of finish it up. All right, so we are going to actually start on page 283 by doing one of the homework problems. So here is our problem, and we did not get to one like this yesterday. So if you can find number one, we're going to do this graph first. It says a cleaning service charges an initial fee. Okay, so they charge a fee and then an hourly rate. The total cost for different number of hours, including the fee, is shown on the graph. I want to know, can we find and interpret the rate of change and the initial value? Okay, so here is what we are going to do first. So if you guys look this time today, the graphs I gave you yesterday had kind of nice points. These ones don't. If you look at this is not really a nice point, not a nice point, not a nice point, but they do give you coordinates. Okay, so it's basically like they gave you a table. They said, okay, I've got 1 comma 28, 2 comma 36, 3 comma 44. So it's basically like they just gave you a table of points. And we know from a table of points how we can find the rate of change or the slope. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take a y minus a y. So I'm going to do 36 minus 28. Okay, and then I'll do 2 minus 1. And hopefully you guys can see that in the table. All right, so if I do 36, take away 28. I end up with 8, and then 2 minus 1 is 1. So I know my rate of change is 8, or $8 per hour. Okay, now if I want to find the initial value, a lot of times when they give you the graph, you can tell for sure what it is if it's a nice point. But since I'm not really sure because it didn't give me a point, I'm going to plug it in like we learned how to do yesterday. So I'm going to write y equals mx plus b. All right, I'm going to start by plugging in an 8 for the slope. Okay, so I got my slope. And then I'm going to pick one point from the table. It doesn't matter which point I choose. All right, so I'm going to choose 1 and 28. That one seems like the lowest numbers. And I'm going to plug in the x here, 1, and the 28 here for y. Okay, and then plus b. I don't know my initial value or my y-intercept. All right, so I end up with 8 plus b equals 28. Now I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides. I end up with b equals 20. So my initial value is 20. So now finally I'm going to write my equation. My final equation is y equals, my slope or my rate of change was 8, so 8x, plus my initial value or my y-intercept is 20. Now you guys might think, well, hey, it looked like it was going to be 20 on the graph over here, but you can't be sure if they don't give you a nice point, so I want you to do it this way. All right, let's try number 2 then. Again, that's still in your math book here, so let's try number 2. All right, number 2, it says the table shows the distance that Penelope is from the park as she walks to soccer practice. So it shows like how far away she is from the park. So she starts pretty far away from the park and she's going to keep getting closer and closer. Okay, you can kind of see that. So she starts this many meters. After 10 minutes, she's a little bit less away. After 15 minutes, she's getting closer, getting closer. So her distance keeps getting less. Okay, so we did not get to one like this yesterday either. So let's go ahead and start by finding what the rate of change is. And we don't know initially how far away she started. So there was like an initial amount that she was away. So I'm going to pick 2 x's, okay, or 2 y's, sorry, and I'm going to subtract them. So I'm going to do, doesn't really matter which order, I'm going to do 1380 minus 1930. Okay, so I did this bottom one minus the top one, and then I'm going to do 10 minus 5. Now I have to go in the same order. So I did this one minus this one, so I have to do 10 minus 5. Okay, well, I know 10 minus 5 is 5. Okay, now I'm going to do, and you guys should have a calculator out, 1380 minus 1930. I end up with negative 550. Now I'm going to divide that by 5 to simplify it down, and I end up with negative 110. That is my rate of change. That means she is moving 110 meters every minute. So she's getting 110 feet closer every minute. Okay, now to find my initial amount, I'm going to do y equals, I know my slope is negative 110, x plus b. Okay, now I'm going to pick a point from the table to plug in. I'm just going to choose a lower, I'm going to choose 20 and 280, a little bit lower numbers. So I'm going to say negative 110. Instead of x, I'll plug in a 20. Over here, I'll plug in a 280 plus b. Okay, if I work this out, again, you guys can use a calculator. I'm going to do 110 times 20, and it was negative, so negative 2,200 plus b equals 280. Okay, now I'm going to add 2,200, add 2,200. I end up with b equals 2,480. So that means she started 2,480 meters away from the park. So my final equation is y equals negative 110x plus 2,480. That would be my final equation. And again, the numbers would tell me this is how far she started away, her initial amount, and this is the rate she is traveling at. So she's taking away 110 meters from her distance every minute. All right, let's do one more. It says, and this is on page 283, number 4 this time. All right, it says, a movie theater offers a reward program that charges a yearly membership and a discounted rate per movie ticket. Okay, the reward program member, for 5 movies, you pay $40. And for 12 movies, you pay $75. I want to know, well, what was the initial membership fee? Okay, and then how much is it per ticket? So let's go ahead and think about this. So it's basically kind of like a little table. So I can say that for 5 movies, I paid 40. For 12 movies, I paid 75. Okay, so here's my number of movies and then how much I paid. All right, let's find the rate of change first. And then obviously some of you might think, hey, can't I just divide them out? Well, you're not going to get the same number, so that won't work. So I'm going to do subtract 2 y's. Oops, I'm going to use a better pen. I'm going to do 75 minus 40 and 12 minus 5. Okay, take a second. You guys go ahead and type that in. All right, so you should get 35, and then 12 minus 5 is 7. And 35 divided by 7 is 5. So my rate of change is 5. So it looks like it's $5 per movie ticket. So that was my discounted rate. So $5 per ticket. Now I want to find what my initial membership fee is. Okay, so I'm going to do y equals mx plus b. I'm going to put a 5 for my slope. And then I am going to pick a point from my table. Doesn't matter what I choose. So I'm just going to use 5 and 40. So I'm going to plug in a 5 for the x and a 40 for the y, and then plus that b. All right, so I do 5 times 5 is 25 plus b equals 40. I'm going to subtract 25 from both sides, and I end up with b equals 25. So my membership fee for the year is $25. So my final equation is y equals, it was $5 per ticket plus my fee, my membership fee of $25. All right, we are going to do one more problem, and this one is a long problem, okay? So it might take us a little bit. So it's on page 282. One last problem. So I have Jack and Ryan. They are both saving money, and both of their graphs are on the table, or on the graph there. I want to know how much more money will Ryan have saved after 20 weeks. So Ryan's saving a little bit faster. You can see his graph. I'm going to just kind of highlight in pink. This is Ryan's graph. He's saving at a faster rate than Jack. He's over here, this yellow one. Okay, so I want to know, well, how much money are they both going to have after 20 weeks? And how much more money will Ryan have? Well, first I have to figure out, like, how fast they're both saving money at. So I'm going to have to do Ryan and Jack. Now you guys can use the whole page for this because there is going to be quite a bit of work. All right, let's start with, I'll start with Jack's, and then I'll have you guys try Ryan's. All right, so let's start with Jack. First thing I need to do is find the rate of change. So I'm going to take 2 points here. Okay, I'm going to use these 2 black ones. And I will erase this after I do Jack's so you guys can see. So I'm going to do the slope. Looks like I go up 10, 20, 30, and over 1, 2. Okay, so 30 over 2, that's the same as 15. So I know Jack is saving $15 every week. Okay, so I'm just going to write that down. I know that about Jack, 15 per week. Now I have to find his initial amount. If I look down at the graph, I am not sure. There's not a nice point, okay? You could maybe guess, but I'm not for sure. So I'm going to have to plug it in. Okay, so I'm going to use my equation. I'm going to say y equals 15x plus b. And I am going to pick a nice point on the graph. Now, it doesn't matter what you choose. I'm going to take this pink one right here. Okay, I'm going to write the coordinates of that point. It looks like it is 4, 80. Okay, you guys should be able to see that, 4, 80. So I'm going to plug that in. I'm going to put a 4 here and an 80 here. So I have 80 equals 15 times 4 plus b. Okay, now I'm going to work that out. So I know 15 times 4 is 60 plus b equals 80. I'm going to subtract 60. I get b equals 20. So his initial amount is 20. So here's what I know about Jack. He saves $15 per week, plus he started with $20 saved. So that's Jack's equation. So I'm just going to kind of keep that in mind. Okay, why don't you pause the video and you try Ryan's. When you're ready to watch me do it, you can push play. All right, so if we take a look at Ryan's, I'm going to do a little bit of erasing here. So actually, it won't let me erase. So I'm just going to use blue for Ryan's. Now, Ryan's is the pink line. I'm going to find 2 points. Okay, so I'm going to use blue. Sorry about that. Okay, let's find the slope. It looks like I go up 10, 20, 30 over 1. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see that in this blue here. So I know Ryan saves $30 per week. Okay, because it was up 30 over 1. All right, so my equation is y equals 30x plus b. I don't know the initial amount. Now, I'm going to pick a nice point of Ryan's. So I'm going to take this one right here. It looks to be 1, 40. Okay, so you guys can see that very nice one here, 1, 40, if I'm looking correctly. Okay, so I'm going to plug in a 1 for x and a 40 for y here, and then times that by 30 plus b. Okay, I'm going to solve it now. So 30 times 1 is 30 plus b equals 40. I'm going to subtract 30. I end up with b equals 10. So my initial amount is 10. So that looks like for Ryan, he's saving $30 per week, plus he started with 10 bucks. So there's his equation. All right, now finally, I'm going to use green now for this last part. Now I can actually solve the problem. This was a big, long problem. So I want to know how much more Ryan's going to have after 20 weeks. So I need to find out for each of those guys how much money they have after 20 weeks. Okay, so I'll start with Ryan. So I'm going to do 30 times 20, because he does $30 a week for 20 weeks plus 10. All right, so I'm going to type that in, 30 times 20, and then plus 10, and it looks like I end up with $610. Okay, why don't you find out how much Jack has? I'll give you a second. So you're going to do 15 times 20 for 20 weeks plus 20. All right, you should get $320. So my final question is, how much more does Jack have than Ryan? Well, I'm going to do 610 minus 320. Okay, I better type that in again. And I think I end up with $290 more. So Jack has $290 more after 20 weeks for my final answer. So that was a big, long problem, kind of putting everything together that we have done.